Hessians. Savage mercenaries. Victims of a tarnished image in America. Even mentioned in the Declaration of Independence. But who are they? And where do they come from? At the end of the 30 Years' War, in 1648, came the Peace of Westphalia, which divided Germany into sovereign principalities. The Principality of Hesse-Kassel was landlocked and devastated by war. The Landgrave or Prince of Hesse-Kassel, Charles I, found that he had no real means of generating income for his kingdom. But what he did have was an army. This was an era of colonization and war, so there was no shortage of demand for troops. The first major use of Hesse-Kassel soldiers in an outside force was in 1688, when 3,400 Hessians served under William of Orange during the Glorious Revolution. Though they did not participate in the invasion of England, they made quite an impression on the mainland. Hessians next took part in the War of Spanish Succession, when Spanish King Charles II died without a capable heir, the son of the Holy Roman Emperor, the son of the Elector of Bavaria, and the Bourbon-Habsburg option Louis XIV's grandson, Philip d'Anjou, all wished to claim the throne of Spain. The Hessians served on the side of the Archduke Charles of Austria, son of the Holy Roman Emperor. Because the Landgrave Charles refused to supply troops to non-Protestants, the Hessians were in the employ of Britain, and under the command of the Duke of Marlborough, John Churchill, ancestor of Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Marlborough praised the Hessians' valor. Shortly afterward, the British Parliament decided to pay a retainer to keep 12,000 Hessians at the ready for British service. This was much faster than recruiting and training their own army, and their location in Central Europe made them convenient for most engagements. Shortly after this arrangement was made came the War of Austrian Succession in 1744. The Hessians were on retainer for Britain, who supported the Catholic Habsburg claim to the throne, yet the Habsburgs opposed Hessel-Kassel's claim to lands granted to them by Protestant Prussia, as a reward for a treaty. The same treaty placed 6,000 men in the service of Prussia, who backed the Bavarian candidate for the Austrian throne, Charles VII. This resulted in Hessian troops being on both sides of the war. There was a secret clause that kept the Hessians from fighting each other. However, the Landgrave Frederick I was receiving blood money from both sides, an extreme case of war profiteering. In the 7 Years' War, Hesse-Kassel became His Britannic Majesty's army in Germany, and again proved to be some of Europe's finest soldiers. But this war was hard on Hesse-Kassel, as many campaigns took place in Hesse-Kassel. After rebuilding and establishing a draft, Hesse-Kassel became the most militarized state in Europe based on population. In 1775 came the American Revolution. King George III used 30,000 Hessians in North America at this time. Though they are commonly called mercenaries, the Hessians would be more accurately described as auxiliary units. The most famous battle of the Revolution in which Hessians fought was the Battle of Trenton. The Hessians were resting in Trenton. Though it was Christmas, accounts of their drunkenness is greatly exaggerated. After his famous crossing of the Delaware, General Washington caught the Hessians unaware and unprepared. The Hessians quickly surrendered to Washington with only 22 dead and 92 wounded. 918 men were captured. At the end of the war, France had acquired troops from Hesse-Darmstadt, Hesse-Kassel's neighbor, that were about to board ships when the war ended. If Hessian troops would have been used by both sides, perhaps the Hessian stigma would never have developed in America. They soon joined into the Prussian army, where they helped to defeat Napoleon at Waterloo. After the Vienna Congress, Hesse-Kassel became part of the German Confederation in 1815. The forces of Hesse-Kassel were major players in the majority of the major wars in Europe from the 17th through the early 19th centuries. These men were auxiliary units that were very common components of Europe's armies at the time. The Hessians' valor and skill were very well respected, and they provided a means of income to their homeland. The Hessians were not simply savage mercenaries, but one of the finest fighting forces in Europe in their time.